Welcome to Uncanny X-Minutes, where we bring you the comics behind the movies. I'm Sasha.
I'm producer James.
And we're here to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine, minutes 50 through 60. James, what happens?
Where is the colon?
Oh, you're right. I forgot. X-Men Origins, Wolverine, minutes 50 through 60.
Now would you like to know what's happening?
Yes, please.
Agent Zero kills the Hudsons, and then Wolverine gets chased through the woods, all of it ending in the death of Agent Zero. We get a young Cyclops insert scene, and then Wolverine meets up with Kestrel.
I've got some bad news for our listeners, James.
What is it?
It got bad.
No longer?
Minute 57.
That's it. We found the limit.
57 minutes left.
Oh, 50 minutes.
Yeah, so I think if we're doing it's minute 52 probably. So minute 51, 52, right after the Hudsons die. I started watching this and it's like, this is where it's losing me. And go. The rest of the movie just felt so good. And even the action scenes at the beginning just feel really different to the action scenes that start happening after the Hudsons die. It used to be character driven. Like even the action scenes of the first one, like everything is about Victor or Wolverine and like them together or them apart. Yeah. And then here it's just like the government fight. Like it's not like, I get it. It's not that it hasn't been set up, but it just, there's something missing here. And I cannot tell you what it is. Maybe just charm in general.
I think the beginning fight scene is similar to like a Danger Room scene. Like it is a way to show off all of the people and all of their powers, but it still means something, and it ends in a way that pushes the character forward. I think for me, it's like the action is like, okay, they found him and they're chasing him, but the chase doesn't seem particularly engaging. They keep cutting between really good physical set pieces and the digital, like, weird backgrounds that don't quite mesh up. So it's very jarring between the two. And it's just not satisfying even when he kills Agent Zero.
No, definitely not. It doesn't feel satisfying. I think, can I be honest, give me more honest? I really think, I was thinking about this, I think it's the claws. They got too excited about them. They got too excited. They got too cute. And I think if we tie it back to where it started losing you with the claws in the mirror, I just feel like the second that they introduced the metal claws, they lost a plot somehow. Like they just got too into the claw thing, and I'm like, they forgot to make the movie they were making. Sad.
Well, I mean, if you look at last week, the Marvel Comics Presents Weapon X story. Yeah. The claws are claws. They're just clawing people up. Like that's what they're made for. They're like you said, they're getting cute with the claws. We need to hit the side of a tank. We need to do a quick U-turn on the motorcycle using claws. Like everything had to be using the claws.
He had to ignite the fire instead of the cigar that he should have in his mouth and dropping that like classically. Ooh. No, we have to spark it with the claws. We have to do the claws cutting through the helicopter, the blade and the wing. Not just one. We got to do both. Like it's just ridiculous. Like it's too much.
I don't mind cutting through the tank gun turret.
Yeah. Okay.
That's very Wolverine. Attaching himself to the helicopter using his claws, absolutely. But like you said, it's everything. It's used. He has a hammer and everything's a nail.
Yes, it felt like they had a bunch of ideas on a storyboard of like, what could he possibly do with his claws here in this scene? And somebody was like, what if we just did all of them? And I'm like, oh God, stop.
And I think if this were in a comic book, I don't think I'd complain as much. Like I think some of the stuff wouldn't, because if it's just like a panel and then a panel and then a panel, it wouldn't be so bad. But I think the live action is like you said, it's a hat on a hat on a hat on a hat.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard for me to say because I don't read a lot of Wolverine because it does like fight scenes kind of bore me, even in comics. And especially, I will admit to this. So like, I'm sure there are people out there that like love this scene and like action. But for me, this is like personal taste. Like I struggle to get through really long action scenes. Mission Impossible sometimes for me. I know people are like, oh my God, I love it. I'm like, I've literally taken out my watch multiple times through a Mission Impossible movie because I'm like, when is he going to stop being in a car chase? It's been 10 minutes. Like
action scenes need stakes.
Yeah.
They need real stakes. And if they don't have stakes, then you need to give me some great choreography or something. Something interesting has to be in there.
I definitely feel like Mission Impossible trades in the choreography, but even for me, like choreography, it's getting old. Like I need you to move on. There's only so much Henry Cavill pumping his arms that I can. And like, listen, that worked for that scene.
Whoa.
I loved that scene. I thought that was the best part. But like later or before, like it's just not the same. Anyway, so the official death of this movie for me is like basically the halfway point, a little bit further than the halfway point, where we start making a turn into things that are nonsense.
Well, speaking of things that are nonsense.
Yes.
No, I guess it's not really nonsense. But I wanted to highlight Agent Zero a little bit before we get too much into our other topic today. Now, when I saw this movie, I was like, oh, Agent Zero, that's a cool name. Didn't think anything of it. Then when I started doing the research, I was like, oh, Agent Zero is actually Maverick. And I know who Maverick is. And this guy is no Maverick.
Right.
We've talked about Maverick when it came to Team X. I always thought he was a cool looking character. Like he's very unique looking. Like I remembered who he was. I remember, this is very off topic. When I was in probably middle school, going to laser tag, and they always like, oh, you gotta have a name so we can put it up on the scoreboard. I put in Maverick, and like I was like, yeah, that's that guy in X-Men, right? I'm gonna put in Maverick. And then later it's like I looked at the card and I was like, oh, that's also like a Wild West TV show is called Maverick as well. But like that's probably what everyone thought I was doing, but that's not what I was doing. Anyway, I just was like, I need a sharpshooter. Like that's all that came to mind. Anyway, Maverick is on Team X. He has his like big power is energy absorption, but like he barely uses it. He's more of a soldier, which for me is not very interesting.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
Well, that's the thing. They're all soldiers, and it's fine. Whatever. I even went into his backstory, and even his backstory, I'm like, I don't care. It's all soldier stuff, and I just don't care so much about the soldier stuff, so I didn't really go too deep into that. But the other big thing that happened is he got the legacy virus, which we talked about in the Bolt highlight. He ended up dying at one point by Sabretooth's hand. Like they were fighting on a rooftop and Sabretooth literally fist in his chest pulls out his, well, I don't think they actually show him pulling out his heart, but I think that's what they're showing is that he's going to pull out his heart, and he dies. Weapon X, like the second iteration of Weapon X, the one that Bolt was on as Maverick.
Yeah.
They took him, healed him up, gave him a cool suit, and gave him the moniker of Agent Zero. So that's where the Agent Zero element comes in, and that's where he kills Bolt as Maverick, all coming together. Okay.
How did he live? I'm a little. If Sabretooth killed him, it didn't stick? Is that what I'm hearing?
I guess it didn't kill, because he had. See, it's weird because at one point, I think they gave everyone in Team X just like a bit of health regeneration, like a cocktail made from Wolverine's healing factor.
Why not?
But the legacy virus sort of suppressed both his mutant ability and the healing. And so he was definitely on death's door. And so Sabretooth brought him into Weapon X.
Got it.
And then Weapon X healed him, but you weren't supposed to know who he was.
Got it.
It was just somebody who knew Wolverine. So they did this single issue of, it was like a roll call almost of all the people that were going to be in that Weapon X run. And his was mysterious. Like you weren't supposed to know who he was. In this 10 minutes, there's also an adamantium bullet introduced.
Saw that. Yes.
I could not find for the life of me them using adamantium bullets because I feel like they wouldn't work.
Really? I should have researched that because I saw it and I was like, is that real? And I was just racking my brain. So I was like, I don't remember adamantium bullets. I just don't.
So put a pin in it because it comes back later in the end of the movie. But when I was reading this Agent Zero one-shot, they gave him what they deemed magic bullets. They were like, it's a little of this, a little of that, whatever. This should be able to take Wolverine down. and the test was he was supposed to try shooting Wolverine, and he wouldn't do it. He missed on purpose, and they were like, yeah, we didn't think you would actually shoot him. This was all part of a test, and those bullets wouldn't even have worked.
Okay.
So at first I was like, ooh, great, I found the equivalent of the adamantium bullet. Oh, it was fake. Never mind. Scratch it out.
Am I crazy, but are they in Logan? The movie?
Yes, they come back in the movie Logan as well.
Yeah.
But Agent Zero does eventually come back as Maverick in the Krakoan era. But yeah, once again, I'm not quite engaged with him. Like, he's cool to have when you need him, but
the problem with Team X, and probably the reason they're not very around or popular or a team, is that when you start thinking about like Laura Kinney and X-23 and like the different things that they end up doing with like Weapon X, they're just better than this. Like, I'm sorry, in the comic books even. Like, I'm not even talking about the movie. I'm just talking about like teams and like things that happen around Weapon X. Like, this was fine for the era that it was in. But then once you start getting into literally X-23, like, you're like, no, this is just better. Forget the rest of them. Who needs them? Like,
isn't even Phantom X part of all that too?
Yes, he is.
And he's way cooler.
Yes.
It's
just better.
They do better things.
They do. And so like you're
and
like,
we'll get into all of them at some point.
Yeah. And like, honestly, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, Team X sounds really interesting, like, maybe don't. I mean, you can, but like, there are just better stories with like Weapon X and like those like military messing with mutants and people to like make them weapons. That story never goes away. It just kind of, it becomes different stories, and a lot of them are better than this one. Sorry. Like,
I feel like if you want that kind of like vibe too, like the soldier vibe or the mercenary vibe, like there's better stories in the Marvel universe for that.
I swear, like, if you just want to watch Mercenaries, you should just read Deadpool. Like, for real.
I was going to say, for Mercenaries, Deadpool, for Soldiers and Spies, Black Widow, Captain America, like there's a reason those run for so long.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of teams that are doing the same thing as other teams, like, and are infinitely less popular, what we're going to mostly talk about today is Alpha Flight.
So the Hudsons were part of Alpha Flight in the comic books,
right,
which we sort of touched on last week.
Alpha Flight is a very interesting team. Their first appearance is actually in X-Men. Well, their first appearance as a team. So I'm not talking about James Hudson or like one-offs. I'm talking about as Alpha Flight. The first appearance is X-Men 121 in 1979. Their job in that comic book is to bring Wolverine back to Canada because he is the property of the Canadian government and Project H. It's kind of calling back to the first appearance of Wolverine and like the Wendigo Hulk fight and Wolverine going with Professor Xavier. This is kind of them, I'm not saying retconning, but kind of building out that story more, talking about the fallout.
Fleshing it out.
Yeah, mainly Canada wants Wolverine back to run this team, like Alpha Flight. Like, Alpha Flight is the brainchild of James Hudson. He's the one that looked at the Fantastic Four, which I find really interesting because Alpha Flight effectively is an X-Men team. It's just an X-Men team.
Yeah. It is an X-Men team that's not just mutants.
Yes.
It's all sorts of different things, but
yeah,
like a ragtag bunch of group it's like the X-Men, if the X-Men were the Avengers, the Uncanny Avengers. That's actually a good.
I actually have a better comparison.
Ooh, do you?
I think it's just Excalibur.
Oh, there you go.
I think it's just Excalibur. Reading Alpha Flight, which we'll get into,
but a
which
Canadian
is its own run,
Excalibur.
It's a Canadian Excalibur. It's weird. There's some like people and gods and like bloodlines, and Alpha Flight got really weird in ways that I did not understand and did not particularly love. But that's fine. We'll talk about it. So James Hudson watches the Fantastic Four and is like, "We need this for Canada." So he's like, "Yeah, let's like start this team." And in the universe of the Marvel Comics, he kind of gets recruited by Department H. They take on this team. They take his suit that he's building, because he's powered by suits. Like, he's kind of like an Iron Man-ish character.
He seems to be sort of flight, strength, just like generic superhero powers, but all powered by a suit, but not in an Iron Man-y way. Like, if you just read the comics, you wouldn't, like, if he showed up in an X-Men comic, you're like, oh, that's a power suit.
Yeah, he just
looks like he has powers.
Yeah, he's in a power suit.
But he is in a power suit. You're right, though.
But, like, he does just roll like he's Captain America. It's very strange. Like, he does not firing lasers the way that Tony Stark does.
No.
Yeah, it's odd.
He doesn't have missiles in it or anything like that. It's just like an enhanced suit.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense, because later on they kind of write that they're trying to create like an alternative for like the super soldier serum. So it makes sense that he ends up being a little bit more Captain America-y. And he later wears the Canadian like maple leaf outfit, which like is very Captain America.
Sure does.
This is not subtle stuff, guys. Like,
No. He's very Canadian.
Yes. So in X-Men 121, he's there to go get Wolverine, bring him back to Project H, and fails at doing that. They don't show up again until...
John Byrne created him.
Yes.
And he just created him for this purpose. Like, it was not a team that was supposed to be ongoing. It was just like we need a team that the X-Men can kind of defeat, and they'll go about their way. They ended up running for a long time.
Yeah, sure do. Alpha Flight comes back in X-Men 140, which is very interesting. In the context, sometimes we just say the issue numbers, but sometimes it's important to think about what is happening. This is between the Phoenix Saga and Days of Future Past. So this Alpha Flight storyline is kind of happening between these like huge seismic shifts in the Marvel universe, and it's very strange. We're talking about the original Phoenix Saga, not Dark Phoenix. Just want to be very clear there. And Days of Future Past, and it's really strange because you'll get to the end of 140 where we've kind of resolved a little bit of this storyline with Alpha Flight, and it just like the last couple of pages are dedicated to the beginning of Days of Future Past. So strange. It's like they don't care about Alpha Flight. It's like, like you said, they made it for this thing and they were like, we're never coming back, right? Issue 140 is like Wolverine with Nightcrawler he's going to go to Canada and like convince the Canadian government to accept his resignation, I suppose, from the country of Canada. Because at the end of 121, he's supposed to go to Canada, and you like see him get in the car, but then he's back on the plane because they're like, we got to go rescue him. And he's like, I'm already here. Like, 'cause he's Wolverine. And he's like, he presumably fought his way out of that situation. And 140, he's going to Canada and just being like, listen, I'm tired of Department H to like beat over my shoulder. I'm going to go tell them, accept my resignation. He goes to Nightcrawler. A+ choice for an assistant, by the way. A teleporter?
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
However, the issue opens up with them in a fight with Wendigo, because apparently you cannot enter the Canadian wilderness without running into Wendigo.
They're just littered with the things.
Littered with them.
It's funny, though, because like the Wendigo is like a mythical, it is like a cryptid.
Yes.
It is a monster that people believe exists when you are in the Canadian wilderness and you have to eat people.
Right.
Like, so if you become a cannibal in the Canadian wildlife, you will turn into a Wendigo, apparently. And that is how it's like canon within the Marvel universe. That is literally what happens.
It's really interesting because it's like, this is not the first time, nor the last, that Marvel Comics adopt like Native American folklore for purposes of the comic book. The Wendigo is definitely one of them. And it's also really interesting because like, also I find the Wendigo really compelling because those stories about cannibalism or like food scarcity are all over the world. And so it's like a pretty common trope.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get like...
No, anytime. Your knowledge of anthropology doesn't always coincide with X-Men, and this is one of the few times.
Yes.
I think this just also shows that the Wendigo is not the same person.
Yeah.
So when we're fighting a Wendigo, it's not necessarily the same guy.
Right. Yeah. The fights are actually completely irrelevant here.
As they often are.
The point is the Wendigo is defeated, and James Hudson goes back to Prime Minister Trudeau officially Trudeau, as in the former Canadian Prime Minister's father. Very interesting. I was like, whoa, he's like legitimately in these comics. They call him out by name. It's kind of like when they start naming presidents in old X-Men comics too, until they stopped doing that because they're like, this is really dating our stuff. It is.
Well, because you got to figure you have a new president every like 48 issues.
Right. Yeah. So
which in their time is like 2 months. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So no. In any case, he goes back. They're like, congratulations. Thanks for handling the Wendigo thing. James, you're Canada's pride and joy. Also, by the way, we're laying you off. It's actually incredible. It is such a funny ending to me. Like, personally, I was just reading this and I was like, this is hilarious. Like, this is so government. This is so funny. But it's not played for laughs. It's played for... It's basically the X-Men story. It's like, hey, people don't really like mutants anymore, and you're becoming a liability, like, PR-wise for this government agency. We're going to let you be, like... We're going to let you guys be affiliates of the Royal, like, Mounted whatever they have in Canada.
The Mounties.
The Mounties. But
the Royal
like,
Mounted Police?
Yes, the Royal Mounted Police. But just so you know, you can't... This whole Alpha Flight thing is dead. We've got to kill it. We were laying you all off. I'm so sorry. And that's kind of where it lives for a while. That's kind of the end of Alpha Flight.
Interesting.
Until 1983. So they left it for like a couple years. And they were like, now we're going to start an entirely new book. So I want to talk about who is in the teams because it's actually different. Who is in Alpha Flight 1 is different than who is in Alpha Flight at the end of X-Men 140. There are a lot of the same characters, but they're not all the same. In X-Men, you have James Hudson, who in 121 goes by Weapon Alpha. And then after he loses to Wolverine in 121, is like, I'll be back. He goes by Vindicator. He renames himself.
He's like, I'm not Alpha anymore because I lost.
Right. And Vindicator is actually the name he goes by all the way through 140. And then also in Alpha Flight number 1, he's still going by Vindicator. So that sticks for a little bit. The other team members are North Star, Jean-Paul Bébert, Aurora, Jean-Marie Bébert, his twin sister. Shaman, that is Michael T. Youngman. Snowbird, whose name is Narya, but is who has a human body form and has taken the identity of Anne Mackenzie, but then gets married, so then she becomes Anne Mackenzie Thompson before she goes back to being her god form, which is Narya. I am not taking any follow-ups on that.
Okay. Yep. Pretty straightforward. I don't know why you would need follow-ups.
And then who is also the adopted daughter of Michael T. Youngman, Shaman. That's it. And then Sasquatch, who is Walter Lankowski. Mm-hmm. He is a friend of Bruce Banner. He's Sasquatch. So he kind of has
Sasquatch does mess around with in the Hulk books.
That is everybody. Alpha Flight number 1 starts with basically Vindicator, James Hudson, being laid off. He kind of picks up exactly where they leave off at 140, which I think is fascinating, right? Like, who really remembered that? I think that's really interesting. This is why Marvel timelines don't add up.
Sure.
This is why Marvel timelines don't add up, right? Because it's like 1983 and you have a character who is continuing to walk out of the scene that you left them in like 1980. You know what I mean? It doesn't really track. But anyway, he leaves and he's a little depressed and he's like, man, I can't believe we got laid off. What am I going to do? We have to this is about money. Like, it's very like street level concerns. Like, he's like, how are we going to pay? Like, my government stipend is going to get cut off. We're going to have to live off of Heather's like finances, like her money only. At least I have Heather, like his love of his life, like et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, but like, what about all of the other team members and all of the other teams? James, because there's not just Alpha Flight. Did you know this? Did you know that there are Beta Flight and Gamma Flight?
I did find this out. You got to have them backups.
Yes. During that, basically, long story short, an emergency happens in Canada, and Heather has to use the emergency ping to gather all of Alpha Flight together. The reason that the lineup changes is because we learned that Beta Flight and Gamma Flight are kind of teams in training. So Beta Flight is like Team B. So they're getting control of their powers. They're becoming useful in battle, but they're not 100% totally comfortable with their skill sets. So that's who they are. Gamma Flight is full of people who are literally just picked up off the street. They've got powers. We can probably train them, but they're pure rookies. Even James Hudson in the issue 1 admits he doesn't even really know them at all. But some of the members of Beta Flight have gotten chip implants.
Okay.
Which connect them to this machine that Heather uses to basically send out what is effectively a bat signal, but to Alpha Flight, the Canada signal that is through implants.
Please don't implant chips to call me. Thank you.
So the team in Alpha Flight is Aurora, so she's still there. Marina, so she goes by Marina Smallwood. She has powers, she has kind of water power, so a little bit more of a Namor type.
Gotcha.
I think the name Marina probably gives that away.
Sure.
North Star is still there. Sasquatch is still there. Shaman is still there. Snowbird is still there. In issue 2, this is when James Hudson changed his name from Vindicator to Guardian.
Much better your name.
It is a much better name. And finally, Puck has also joined with Marina, the main team of Alpha Flight, and his name is Eugene Judd. So this is just talking about issues 1 and 2. There's one other person, I think Shaman's daughter, I think her name is Elizabeth, joins later, kind of in the middle of the Alpha Flight run here, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about how it opens in 1983. And that's the new team.
I think when it comes to the Alpha Flight team, for purposes of X-Men reading, the only real important characters are Aurora and North Star.
I have one addition to add to that.
Would you add Puck as well?
No.
Oh.
So, Aurora and North Star are very important. I'll talk about that and why. But it's actually a member of one of the other teams. The Beta team.
Who is hidden on there that I didn't know about?
I can't wait to tell you. You're going to be so excited. So the Beta team, I don't know who they are. Basically, they're panels in these issues that are just pictures of people that I didn't recognize. And then looking them up later, Beta Flight has a couple people that are interesting. One of them is Box and one of them is Flashback. I don't know if you know them at all, but that's not who I'm talking about. On Gamma Flight, in this issue, we've got a couple other people on there. Diamond, Madison Jeffries, Smart Abe. But finally, and the most important, is Kyle Gibney, who is Wild Child.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yep.
Yes.
I think I forgot Wild Child was even on Alpha Flight, and that's why it didn't occur to me.
Yeah, he's one of the main Alpha Flight people.
Right. I know more from his Age of Apocalypse appearances, more so than his Alpha Flight.
He's excellent in Age of Apocalypse, too.
Still, though, I'm going to say Aurora and North Star are the highlights. I would say they're the biggest reason I actually know who Alpha Flight is at all.
I agree. I think you're right. I think the fact that technically, you could add Wolverine was not really part of Alpha Flight, but should have been.
Sure.
It's actually a big part of the motivation for James Hudson in Alpha Flight, the run in 1983, is that he's the leader, but he never expected to be. He thought it was going to be Wolverine, so he's kind of trying to fill Wolverine's shoes. I just want to say North Star and Aurora and Wild Child are 3 main characters in my favorite run of all time, which is the X Factor run during
Here we go.
Bringing up.
Yep.
The X Factor run during Krakoa. That run is amazing. They are absolutely vital in it.
Yeah.
And you should read it. Please read it. It's so good.
I also want to give a shout out to North Star having probably one of the most healthiest relationships out of all the X-Men.
That's true.
And he's married to a human.
Yeah, he is. His husband's amazing.
His husband's amazing. There's not really much drama that everyone else gets, you know? Like, we talk about, like, oh, Rogue and Gambit are just, like, a power couple. We talk about a lot of power couples. This is just straight, like, he is a superhero. His husband is not, but they are, like, solid as a couple in a very real way.
He's also one of the few humans that live on Krakoa while it's running.
That is also true.
He's so chill that he literally got to live on Krakoa. It's like not a thing.
Right. But yeah, so that's that. I just want to, like, if you're just reading random X-Men, you're probably going to run into those three.
Yeah,
more
for
than
sure.
the rest of them. There's a few more. Is Puck a mutant? I can't remember. I don't think he is.
I don't think so. Let me double check. He's not a mutant.
So there you go. So yeah, so Puck, not a mutant. But he does. I don't know why I know him then.
Puck is pretty, like, he's pretty a solid character in Alpha Flight. Like, he's usually there, barring the original X-Men appearance.
Yeah.
He's one of the most stable members, so that might be why you know him. Just because he is
That's
Alpha Flight.
That's probably it.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about Alpha Flight, but that is just like a very basic run through their intro, get to know them.
They are in a couple of cartoons if you really want to look up more about them and don't want to read the books.
They're definitely positioned as like Canadian X-Men, like they're working for the government, but the government kind of leaves them to wither on the vine, and they kind of become their own separate group running out of, you know, the Hudson's house. But
yeah,
you know, it's not quite the same. There's a lot of things that I think is more similar, like I mentioned earlier, to Excalibur than to a lot of like the regular X-Men stuff. There's a lot of gods. There's a lot of like powers. Like shamanism is huge for here. There's a lot of magic, I would say. And obviously the team is not all mutants. So yeah.
Right.
I could go on forever, but I won't because I think we're out of time. So I've been Sasha.
I'm producer James.
And we'll see you for the next time.